Go. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Johanna Miller, the Energy and Climate Program Director at the Vermont Natural Resources Council, bringing you our weekly climate dispatch, joined today, as always, usually with my colleague Lauren Hurl, Vermont Conservation Voters, and today with Senator Andrew Perchlik, my senator from Washington County. But importantly, Senator Perchlik is on the Senate Transportation Committee, as well as on the Senate Education Committee. But Senator Perchlik has been professionally a long-time clean energy expert and advocate, including in his professional role, not during the legislative session as much as the Clean Energy Development Fund program manager. But today, Senator Perchlik is here with us in his leadership role on the Senate Transportation Committee. And as we all know, transportation accounts for about half of our carbon pollution in the state of Vermont. So really important, big opportunity and need to focus on reducing pollution in that sector. We have been giving you updates on the House's work on the transportation bill and the transportation modernization elements of the T-bill. And as you know, the House made some pretty important investments in programs that will help more Vermonters electrify, how they get to where they need to go in terms of electric vehicle incentives, expanding programs like Mileage Smart, which help more low-income, vulnerable Vermonters get into more high-efficiency vehicles and electric vehicles, investments in sort of complete street programs and transportation demand management programs. Really important start. That bill is now in the Senate and in Senator Perchlik's arena and wheelhouse. And so it's great to have the senator here to give us a little bit of an update in terms of how he's thinking about the transportation bill, as well as something that Lauren's going to talk about, the potential significant opportunity in the infusion of federal funds coming in through the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA for short, and the over $1 billion that are in Vermont right now that are going to help feed and house people and help move through this crisis. And then ideally a significant chunk of those dollars can also go towards long-term climate and economically beneficial strategies. So Senator Perchlik, tell us a little bit more about your work in Senate transportation and what you're hoping for this session, and with federal funding a little bit too. Thanks.
Great, thanks. Well, thanks for having me here, and thank you, John and Lauren, for all the great work that you're doing in and outside the legislature. Both your organizations are doing great work. On the big picture, well, first I also want to say that the House did a great job on the transportation bill, and as we talk about, we're really changing the paradigm of how we look about all of our energy choices and uses. The House Transportation Committee in the last 2 years, but I think particularly this year, did a great job of kind of switching the conversation and the lens and how we go about building a transportation budget and how we look at energy in that context. So it's a slow process, but it's good to see that it's starting to happen. And that's the way I'm thinking about it, as big picture. As you said, John, I've been involved in Vermont energy stuff for the last 25 years or something. And we did great work on our electric energy sector in Vermont. I think it was 25 years ago that we created Efficiency Vermont, which was a really big paradigm shift on how we look at energy efficiency. But it took a long time. It took a long time to happen, and then it's been a process over those 25 years. But now it's just ingrained in how we think about electricity and how that whole process, how the whole area is regulated, and how we see the opportunities there. But we really haven't done that with transportation. So there isn't even though we have the Agency of Transportation, of course, and they're working on some good things, but there isn't this focus, I'd say, on how do we transform the whole market. Even though they're doing work in transforming the transportation sector, or if you want to call it, market for a transformation. So I'm beginning to think, how do we do that? Like, how do we set up something that's really a total game changer on how we do this? And I haven't really decided exactly what the answer is, but I think it's important to start thinking about it in a more combined picture instead of all the different programs. Because in this bill, we have new incentives for electric vehicles. We have a new low-income program that will get rid of old cars that are inefficient and polluting and get them into new transportation solutions that are very clean. We have a low income program for used electric vehicles. We have a emission repair program for old cars that might be polluting. We have an electric bike incentives. We have electric vehicle charging stations incentives. We have efforts on public transportation. The primary one that I'm excited about is what people call microtransit, but I'm thinking there should be a better name, kind of like on demand, basically like an Uber like demand service. Those are all great programs, and it's great that they're in here, and we're trying to fund them as much as we can. But there isn't, as far as I can tell, a really coordinated view of all those programs. And the agency contracts a lot of that out. And I'm wondering if there really should be a new division or part of Agency of Transportation where this is just their goal, kind of like we have with the renewable energy standard for the utilities, and then an agency that's responsible for making sure those entities meet those goals. So that's one of the big picture things I'm thinking about. But the committee has just started to go through section by section of the House Transportation Bill, and I think it's going well. The committee's interested in all these, transportation efficiency and clean transportation transformation programs, as much as they're also interested in all the bridges and culverts stuff that we talked about in the transportation bill. So that's kind of the overview. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. And we're so grateful, Senator Perchlik, for your leadership and having your deep expertise on these issues in the Transportation Committee and in the Senate overall has been such a great asset for the state. So thank you for your service, and such a hard time. So grateful that you're in that role and serving. So we always like to wrap these up with a call to action, and today really want to tie it into where Johanna started and the bigger picture of state funding, and how are we taking advantage of this moment of one-time federal stimulus dollars coming into the state and making sure that we live up to the rhetoric that we, our elected leaders have coming into office of the urgency of addressing the climate crisis, and what we all know as the huge economic opportunity that we have by making strategic investments in things like weatherizing people's homes, which is going to save them money, make them healthier, more comfortable, while also doing our part on the climate crisis. So we're looking for a serious commitment in how we're going to roll out this one-time funding to addressing climate strategies that we know are going to help Vermont families and Vermont businesses. And so, what we hope you will consider doing today is reaching out to your senator or senators and just letting them know that you hope to see that significant commitment in our state budget, and especially this one-time funding, so that we can really meet the commitment we made as a state last year through the Global Warming Solutions Act to dramatically reduce our pollution, and do that in a way that is going to increase equity and increase resilience for our communities. So that's today's call to action, and this is going to be a big topic for the rest of the session. So we'll be rolling out more details as they come of what that can look like. But really grateful to get the transportation details today, and we'll be back with you next week. So stay tuned next Friday. And thank you again, Senator Perchlik and Johanna, and hope you all have a great weekend.
Thank you.